Dzień dobry from Gdańsk again. There are only two words to describe the situation we are in. October fever. Today and in the following two episodes I will explain hull to plank fixing. I will explain in details the best way to put your plank and hull together. And in the following two episodes I will go through full process of preparing your hull for installation, preparing your plank, doing alignment, and in the end shimming your plank. There are many different ways to put plank and hull together. The old way I used to have as a junior sailor was having two wooden beams on the bottom of the boat, and the plank was installed in between the beams, and one center hole through the cockpit and plank, one screw, one nut, and that was the fixing method for me as a junior. And this method works still for many other sailors I have seen on the ice until today. The other method is you put a steel plate on the plank risers. So plank risers or a flat top of the plank is something very common. Most of the planks are made this way, and you put two steel plates, and in some systems there is only one stud, like in US it will be 3/8, close to 10 millimeters stud in the center on each of the plates that goes through the plate that is attached to the bottom of the hull, and it's threaded stud, so it receives a nut from the inside of the cockpit. In Scandinavian systems there are two studs, 8 millimeters in diameter, two studs on each side, meaning that you have to install the plank, you need to put two nuts on each side. Sometimes these are steel nuts, sometimes made of some sort of plastic, but each time you reposition the plank, you need to find a pair of holes on each side of the hull. Another system used to put plank and hull together is to once you put your hull on the plank, you tie the rope and fix it in a cleat. And honestly, I've seen one or two boats using this system, but not really anymore, not that strong and popular. So I think this is just disappearing. And what is the main purpose of each of those systems? Of course, it's holding plank and hull together, but there is a way more things related to this, especially when I talk about my system, because it's about easy alignment or repositioning or changing alignment if needed. It's about easy setup on the ice, easy disassembly when you are done and you are packing your equipment. And in my opinion, the most important thing is a damage limitation. Crashing with other boat or falling into a crack can stop your regatta immediately. You have to pack up your gears and go back home to fix it. In the best way scenario, you will be the king of the hotel lobby, setting up your boat and doing the repair and fix, if hotel will understand your need and allow you to do it. And what if you invested into a long and expensive trip and you are out of the game after race number 1 or race number 2? Or maybe you run a special preparation program, exercising, fine-tuning your boat, spending hours and hours to achieve your personal best in the regatta in upcoming season, and suddenly due to accident you are out of the game again. Are you familiar with this feeling? I am, more than one time. And picture of sailors fixing their boat in a hotel lobby is nothing unusual. My system takes only tripod, the rest is optional. it makes life easier. The base idea behind is a fact that there must be only one thing that fails in the event of accident. When I say my system, it doesn't mean that I have invented this system. The system is a result of an evolution of other systems, and I put some upgrades and little changes to make it work in the best possible way, and I think that's currently the best and the safest systems when it comes to damage limitation. Of course, if you have your own ideas and your own solutions, please share it with me and I will be happy to share it with the community. But to give you an idea what the system is about and how it works, it's very simple. I attach two steel plates. This is stainless steel plate, 3 mm in thickness, that is located on both sides of the hull, from the bottom of the hull, from the outside. And this is cut into 3 sections, so 3 pads. That's why I call it a tripod, and connected with a small joints, small connectors, steel connectors that, after all, are cut away to separate the pads. So these pads, using 4 screws on each pad, are screwed into the hull, and in the hull there are 3 20 mm in diameter holes to accommodate the screw head. So screw head goes through the cockpit from the inside, through the steel pad, and then there is 8 mm hole drilled in the plank, and the screw goes through the plank, and the nut, the washer and the nut goes from the bottom of the plank. This way we create a system where 8 mm screw is so strong that in case of accident there is only one thing that can fail, and this is a tripod. So usually the tripod will be ripped off your hull, leaving the other pads untouched in place. That's why I mentioned that when we install the tripod on the hull, we have to cut away the connectors from the tripod to make those 3 sections separate, independent. In case of emergency situation, you rip off one of the pads and you have 2 options to put your gear together. You use a different set of holes and move your plank fore or aft, depending on your possibilities, or you can easily replace the pad that was ripped off. This is why the pad has 2 sets of holes prepared for 2 different screw setups. So when I initially install my tripod, I use 4 corner holes for 4 screws, and eventually, if I rip it off, I take a new pad, because this one will be probably damaged, but I would eventually use a new pad and use a new set of holes for putting screws in. This way it takes only 10 minutes to replace a heavy that's not a heavy damage, to replace a missing pad on the bottom of your hull. And you can continue sailing having the same setup of your plank and hull. So you may use a different set of holes, but you may also use a spare pad to replace the one that was broken, and using alternative set of holes, put the screws in and continue sailing with your current setup. That's a fantastic solution, because you eventually miss a race when you had an accident, but you are good to go in the next race to come. And that, for many people using this system who had an accident during a regatta, saved the whole event. You probably noticed that these pads, the side pads, have a little frame to the outside, and the frame is to allow, in case you change position from center to fore or aft to allow the rest of the plank to rest on the frame here. You have a full support, full length of the block of the razor on the plank. You have full length support. That's why the frame is here. In the past, I was making a little bit different design of the tripod. This is big frame tripod. The size of the pad is the same basically, but the frame was much bigger, and I realized with time that there is no reason for the frame to be so big, so I just optimized the shape a little bit. And for those who are very weight sensitive, I also make a carbon fiber, or this is a carbon fiber and glass hybrid tripod, exactly the same dimensions, laser jet cut. That is 1/5 of the weight of the steel part, but it is 6 millimeters in thickness, so almost 1/4 inch. You have to keep in mind that those pads, they wear with time. So if you use only one setup for your every sailing, or this is your favorite used for most of the time, after 2 seasons of intensive sailing, you may notice a little wobble when you fix the plank. There will be a wobble, and if you are not comfortable with this, you can easily put the 4 screws out and replace the pad, because there is no adhesive used to install it on the hull. But this wobbling and wear of the material is the common problem for all the systems, because every time you have a metal screw working in a metal pad, that will be the same issue for every system. The other pad, because there are 2 needed for the system, the other pad, instead of a hole, it has an oval, allowing the plank for minimum movement when the plank bends, and the distance between fixing points changes. It changes very marginal, but there must be a place foreseen to accommodate this movement to left and right. So the other pad has instead of a hole, it has an oval. And this is how the system looks like installed on my hull. You can see 4 screws for each pad, and the connectors between the pads are just cut off to make each pad separate from each other. You have probably experienced this kind of situation in the past, or you know people who had experienced an accident and were forced to withdraw from the competition because of level of damage. Therefore, I think that this is the best solution available now. 8 millimeter screw will always win again small 4 millimeters screws, wood screws holding the pad to the bottom of the hull, and there is nothing to break on the plank. So the plank, the screw is held from the bottom with a big washer and a nut, and there is no way it's gonna let go. So there is only one thing to break if the break happens, and you are always on the safe side with the plates and one big with the studs and one plate on your hull. You never know what's going to fail. It may be that your stud breaks, which is very much welcome in such a situation, and then there is very little damage or no damage. You replace the plate on the plank. But what happens if the stud doesn't let go and the stud rips off the whole long plate on the bottom of your hull? The damage is huge. Replacement on the ice in between races is very difficult or even impossible, and sometimes it requires a serious repair to make it work again. And The same situation happens with the system with two studs. You never know what's going to break, whether it will be plate on the plank or maybe plate on the hull, or maybe both. And maybe the studs will cause so serious damage when the plank is fixed to one point and starts rotating. Unbroken stud can heavily damage the bottom of your boat. So I'm pretty sure you've seen a lot of those damages that happen to you or your friends, and you know the consequences. Therefore, I experience more than one accident with this system by myself, and I know that this is fully replaceable in between the races, or if you don't want to fix it on the ice, it's just enough to change the position of your plank, move it fore or aft. The last time I benefit from having this system was Lake Pepin, 2013, when I crashed with four-wheelers, delivering the weathermark to its place. I was sailing practice lap with Robert, and the four-wheeler was hidden behind Robert's sail, and suddenly it came from nowhere, and I hit the four-wheeler with my side runner, windward runner, and everything was like, you know, the usual thing, what happens. And Robert noticed what happened, and he immediately went to grab my tool bag. He came 5 minutes later with my tool bag, and it took us another 5 minutes to put things together, and I was ready for the next race without losing even a single race in this event. By the way, this event never happened because of no wind. In the next episode, I will show you how I install tripods on the hull, because I have new hull, new version hull, and I need to install the system on it. So I will guide you through the full process step by step. I will also show you how I align a runner plank, how I install a runner plank with this system, so how I find my proper alignment. And in episode number 3, about the same topic, I will show you how I shim my runner, because when you put your runner plank and hull together, it's not the end of the story. Of course, it will work, but if you want to step up the game, there is a little work and fine-tuning to be done. So this will be covered in episode number 3. Stay tuned for more. Cheers! Oh, and I've forgotten to mention that with the next episode, I will upload and share with you all the files. You can download them free of charge, go to your local laser cut shop or water jet cut shop, have them cut and installed on your boat, and enjoy safe sailing. Same with the jig. The jig will come along, and you will be able to download jig plans as well as tripod plans. Cheers!